We're not going to beg for you to see our humanity. We are here.
My name is Jamaica Miles, co-founder of All of Us Community Action Group. I've been organizing in the Greater Capital District for more than a decade and really working hard to make sure that community voices are heard across the Greater Capital District, especially here in the capital, the city of Albany, where the seat of power is just steps away from the most impoverished communities. So we want to make sure that during this time and all times, that the community is truly the voice that is heard and leading the decisions that are made within the policies, laws, and procedures that impact and make decisions about the residents of Albany every single day.
Hi, I'm Morgan Marina. I am one of the leadership members of All of Us Community Action. I am a local to Albany. I have lived here for the past 6 years, but Albany has always been a big part of my life. Coming from the Hudson Valley, Albany is something that has impacted me in multiple different ways, and I want to make sure that the community members are heard because this community has been here for me since I was 16 years old. So I want to come back and be here for you.
My name is Paul Collins Sackett, and I'm Batman. I do what I can to save the city. I work collaboratively with anyone who's concerned, anyone who wants to help people and put the mission first. So from our nonprofit programs where we do food drives, scholarships, back to school giveaways. I also work professionally at a nonprofit where we give books to kids and we focus on early childhood literacy. I'm born and raised in Albany, New York. Plan on staying here for the rest of my life. So I have no problem sharing my thoughts, and I hope everyone kind of gets involved. Don't just watch these videos and kind of like and share them. Make sure that it translates into action. So what you do defines you. Just make sure.
My name is Sean Young. I am the co-founder of All of Us Community Action Group here in the Capital Region. I have a lot of family here in Albany. I've lived here for several years. I believe that we all understand that this is a moment of great change or great potential for change, and it's an opportunity now not only to watch these videos and get to ingest this content, but to come out and get involved and make change happen in your community. It's not enough to come out and rally and protest and march. It's an opportunity, I think, now to get involved with the decision-making happening both in the capital of our government and in City Hall.
It's where we get to just do the welcome. This is us having a conversation. Really appreciate this opportunity for the four of us to be here and talk and also address Mayor of Albany, Chief of Albany, City Council, and gosh, wish David Soares was available to be able to hear this as well. The first topic that we're talking about is an acknowledgement of systemic racism, right? And the effects it has on the local community here in Albany. Like, what does that mean to everybody?
I mean, I think systemic racism, right, is a step away from what people typically think of racism. Typically, they put it on the individual, right? It's easy to point at a person, who claims to be a skinhead or a neo-Nazi or whatever, or says the N-word or says something that is, I think, obviously racist, and think that that's racism. It's a lot more difficult to look at what you're talking about, which is the systems and structures of racism, which are, for example, look at our city school district and how it's funded, right? Albany City School District is owed $30+ million. Just recently, they had to lay off 200+ professionals. There's a 20% cut to the education budget in our state. Albany lost 200 jobs. Guilderland City School District did not. The difference is what, right? There's a lot of black and brown students in Albany High, right? In Albany City School District, period. Not as many in Guilderland. So a part of it is, I think, looking at the way in which our communities are funded and truly invested in. So that's an example of systemic racism that is different from the individual. That's my opinion.
I agree 100%. I think we've been so conditioned to accepting these things as reality, as to it's just how it goes, that we don't question it. And when we try and tell people that it doesn't have to be this way, they have no frame of reference because they can't even imagine things being restructured. Right. So when we say property taxes, as funding for schools, that can create an imbalance based on the neighborhood and things like that. That's a fundamental way that creates inequity in our schools.
Redline.
But we're so used to it that no one really questions it. When we say systemic racism, that's just a tangible example of what we're really talking about.
In referencing systemic racism, we have to talk about the pipeline from the schools to the prison system. There's no reason that we should be funneling our children from schools to prison. And the fact that we're going to take 200 plus jobs and take those away from our people, our communities, so in the end it's hurting our communities. And that is something that we have to talk about and make sure that it ran away from me.
No, I kind of think I know where you're. I kind of think I know where you're going with it, right? Because the school to prison pipeline I think is a really, really good example because it's the funneling looks like what the way we have these SROs that safety resource officers that walk the halls of the school, which are the police for those young people, right?
And sometimes literally the police.
Yeah.
And so for Mayor Sheehan, for Chief Hawkins, for DA Soares, right? It's not as if we're talking about things that they don't have impacts on every single day. They get to make decisions about where funding goes. Is there an after-school program or a community outreach program or, I don't know, a community center that is fully funded that allows for after-school programs for children to have something to do as opposed to simply being out in the streets? What are we doing to make sure police officers are not harassing or assaulting children up to the age of and beyond 25 who happen to be walking down the streets? What is Chief Hawkins doing to address that? What is Mayor Sheehan doing to say to the chief and the police force, hey, we need to make sure there are policies and procedures in place that allow our children not to be harassed and that the residents who are already impacted are not facing additional trauma just because of you?
And also talking about the resource officers that are in the schools, guarantee with the budget cuts, the police officers that are in the schools were not cut. But I guarantee you there's a school psychologist that was cut, there's a guidance counselor that was cut, people that are supposed to be guiding our children and molding these young minds, they're being cut, but the police officer that's walking through the hallway potentially may be harassing a student because they look a certain way, they might have done something, they might have not, but there's no one that child can talk to about that interaction because you've now cut their job.
But what happens when the mayor says, oh, well, I don't fund the school district? It's not my responsibility. Does that mean the mayor has no responsibility when the funding is cut? Is there nothing the mayor can do?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Listen, it's everyone's responsibility to speak up when they see something wrong, right? The mayor of the city sees, what's going on in the city that she's supposed to represent. If it's an issue, speak up on it. She has a platform, right? That's very large in the city of Albany. She can speak up and say, hey, Governor Cuomo, make sure you fully fund our schools. I haven't seen her do that yet, right? And I think that's a part of the problem. But I want to go just quickly back to this idea like systemic racism. I think when we talk about it as it exists within the institutions and departments and on a larger scale, sometimes it gets maybe a little confusing. Maybe people don't really know exactly what we're talking about. And a more simpler way for me to think about it, it's a set of priorities, right, that are historically rooted, right, in this country that has consistently and insistently devalued Black and brown communities, right? It's a set of priorities that come both from the governmental level and the societal level, the social level, that has consistently and insistently devalued our communities, has defunded us intentionally, left us out of opportunities intentionally, and it's about the choices that were made based on race in this country and power in this country. So for me, it's a maybe sounds complex, but that's a simpler way to for me to understand systemic racism.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think you even, to piggyback, you kind of transition to something else, like the devaluing. I think it's, and hey, we can edit if we have to or cut out whatever we need to, but I think it's ridiculous that the DA couldn't even find time in his schedule or couldn't make this a priority to be a part of this conversation. I find that incredibly problematic. One of the issues facing our young people today is what they deal with, the time that he presents, the officers he chooses to indict or not indict. And at this point in time, he can't even be bothered to be a part of this conversation. That's incredibly dismissive, disrespectful, and it's indicative of his office and how it treats our communities.
Then what does that mean for the relationship that residents have with the DA's office, with the police department, with policing in general? What does the relationship look like? Can there be a relationship with the DA's office and the justice system?
Well, how do you have a relationship when you're not in your community? You're not willing to hear your community members. So it says a lot that he wouldn't make time in his schedule to come hear people, to come talk to people, because I know that people have been out here trying to get meetings, trying to talk to you, and you don't want to talk to anything about anything that you don't want to hear, that you don't feel is a problem. But we're here telling you that it is a problem, that in fact these things are happening to us and you are hurting us. The community here of Albany is hurt and you don't want to hear it. So what do you have to say to that? But you can't because you're not here.
He doesn't have to. He won his election, he doesn't care. When you win your election, why do I have to listen to accountability? There's no moral standard there, there's no moral expectation, so he doesn't. And he kind of goes along with this. And for me, I work with kids on a daily basis in every aspect of my life. Specifically at Tony Clements. And what we did, we ran career motivation classes, we worked on resumes, we helped kids explore different pathways. And I had to tell those kids that outside of the window, a young man was shot and paralyzed. And the officer who shot and paralyzed that young man was allowed to retire and was celebrated. And the young man who was 17 and shot behind a school is now paralyzed for the rest of his life. Now, the DA doesn't have to come outside. He doesn't have to be a part of these conversations. But you asked what it does to the relationship with the community. It makes our kids afraid. We don't know that there's a system of accountability that will protect them at a school. And even after, doesn't have time to be a part of this conversation. So as much as we tell our kids to be involved, to get involved, be good people, be a part of your communities, save the city, it's very hard to explain to them that, listen, we might be on our own on this.
Yeah, so Chief Hawkins is new, right? Ish. New-ish to Albany. And DA's not doing what the DA should do, period. I've seen there's been some type of community conversations that Chief Hawkins has been a part of, supposedly trying to listen to the community and be engaged and be involved. I don't know about anybody else. I'm not feeling any level of sincerity behind that. I don't feel as if Chief Hawkins is really taking seriously the harm has already been done, the lives that have been lost, the damage that has been done, because I don't see any policy changes that are really addressing that. What are they doing about chokeholds or strangleholds? What are they doing about the firing of weapons, de-escalation, other than saying you took a training? What is Chief Hawkins really doing?
I think Chief Hawkins' biggest thing is appeasement. He wants to appease people and give the illusion that he's here to help us, when in actuality he's not. And he said himself when we were at that protest in Albany, came out and kneeled because he thought that's what we wanted. No, what we want you is to hold these officers accountable for the things that they're doing in this community. But you don't want to do that, and you don't want to have the conversations that are going to lead to that because it's uncomfortable. And I don't understand. We do things, being me every day is uncomfortable. So, and I do that, and I wake up and I do that every day, and out of being uncomfortable, we grow. But it sounds like you're anti-growth to me.
I feel like this ties right back into this, the ideas, the question about systemic racism and the culture of the police. Even if Chief Hawkins or any one individual want to do something, the culture of racism, the culture of violence continues to affirm itself at every step. So Chief Hawkins, any police officer that says wants to do something different than the officers that are causing harm in the community, if they speak out, they're oftentimes ostracized, right? they're oftentimes told no, look the other way. They're looked at as being something that's against this so-called quote unquote brotherhood, sisterhood, right? It's the culture of, I think, of the police department that continues to reinforce itself on Chief Hawkins, on its officers, on the detectives, and they're not willing to change it. And I'm saying that's a possibility. He may, in his mind, be thinking, hey, I am trying to do something, but he can only do so much in the face of that, right? And that's the problem. That's the problem. We need folks that are gonna represent our community to be brave and to step up, and we need the community to make sure that they're there to hold them accountable when they do not, regardless of what happens, right? That's just how I look at it. That's how it ties back into systemic racism. The culture the police department is not just the police department, the culture of the DA's office, the culture of City Hall, the culture of the judiciary, right? It's all the same thing that constantly attempts to reinforce itself. It is not willing to change, not without pressure from the people.
And that brings up something really relevant right now, the difference between transformation and reform. We hear reform all the time. All the time. We're reforming the police department. We're reforming. I really want to hear what y'all think about that. I have my own thoughts about the difference between transformation and reform, but I'm listening to y'all and we're talking about change, right? So what does that change look like? How do we get to transformation as opposed to reform?
Well, one thing that I can think of, reform just, it feels disingenuous to me. It doesn't feel like enough. We need more. We need, dramatic change right now in a meaningful way, in a tangible way. And I definitely agree with what you were saying about the chief and the culture. One great example I have about that is the LEAD program, the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. Now, the goals of that program were to divert individuals who didn't have a violent offense into treatment as opposed to being arrested. If you got a guy who's trespassing, he's homeless, arresting him for trespassing isn't going to do anything. He's going to be homeless again when he gets out tomorrow. Why are we doing that, So the model was, we can actually get him involved in services. So there was an idea. There was an idea to reshape policing, to reshape police interactions, to reapproach the community. I'm on board. I love that. I feel like that could be a great help to people. It makes a lot of sense. Then the culture thing became a problem. The first thing we noticed, I'm on the community leadership team for LEAD, the first thing we noticed in the arrest data was that there was a racial disparity. That's a problem, that we have a program that can be transformative, but the culture of the department would not allow that. Eventually, the arrest data stopped coming. I'm not sure where LEAD currently stands. I think it's something that could be transformative as opposed to just a new rule, we're gonna have a new training. We don't need training, we need new systems, And I think this was a way to do that, but I'm not sure where it stands because of the culture and everything else that you mentioned.
My God, you just said something that just struck a chord with me, this idea of training, right? There's two things I want to point to, but I want to get to the training part that you just said. There was a woman that was at a community conversation where we had a lot of members of the community. We had some representatives from the police department there. And they kept this training kept coming up, right? It was like, we do need more training. It was acknowledged by the representative of the police department. Yes, we do need more training. And this woman just screamed, "You don't need more training. You don't need more training, because you don't need training in white neighborhoods. You don't need training there. You know how to act there. You don't need training to be a human being there. Why do you need training to be human in my community?" That was such a powerful moment, because I think I believed that already. I just had never articulated in that particular way, right? And she's right. Like, you don't need more training. It's something else going on there, right? And this idea of reform, I think, versus transformation. Reform is problematic because it's only acknowledging the symptoms of the issues. It's not acknowledging the causes, the root causes. Right? And I think that until we're able to do that, and it's going to take transformation to get to the root causes, to upend that tree and that root and find another way. And it's going to take all of us to do that. It's going to take our community coming together to be creative and figuring out how we should be moving forward with a community that works for all of us, not just some of us.
I think transformation is beautiful, and I think all the people here will agree that none of us know it all. All of us would agree that. And I think that we can definitely learn things from other cities that are doing transformation, that are currently enacting transformation. Like in Dallas, Texas, they have something called Right Care, okay? So Right Care it was a pilot program that started in 2017 that's still going on because it works. And what they do is they provide rapid response in mental health emergency calls. Okay, so they divert mental health patients from ERs and jails, so we're not using up resources from other places. Okay, they provide on-the-scene preventative intervention services. They provide mental health crisis visits. Okay, and a visit is not with a police officer. Okay, it is, and they don't even come in a police car. They come in an unmarked car. And they do come with one police officer, but they come with a specially trained paramedic. They come with a behavioral health social worker. They come with a behavioral health social worker that also takes the lead. So you have 4 people there, okay? And the police officer is the afterthought, okay? Because we know that in our communities, we need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about all these other issues, and that the police officers are not fully trained because they have a lack of training, but for some reason it's only a lack of training in our communities. But only in our communities, but we see that mental health is an issue for everyone. We've seen that there has been autistic people shot and killed by the police because the police did not know how to react to someone having a meltdown that was of a different background than them. They didn't understand that. And I think if we look to this program, that since this program has happened, this program has diverted 31% of calls from jails and ER. 31% is a lot, okay? And Dallas, Texas, it's far away. The population is 1.3 million people, okay? So if Dallas, Texas can do it, the city of Albany, where we only have 97,000 people, can figure out how to do that. And I don't understand why we can't take something on such a massive scale there and scale it down. We're not even trying to scale it up. We're trying to scale it down.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling all of that because for me, it is everything that you've all said. The difference between reform and transformation is reform is leaving the foundation. The foundation is what it is, and we're gonna try to tweak it, we're gonna make minor changes, as opposed to recognizing the foundation is the problem. Patriarchal white supremacy is real. And is the foundation of our police department, is the foundation of so many different pieces of this community we're surrounded by. We're literally right now sitting where there used to be a community. There was a community here, and it was upended, uprooted, and moved so we could put some government buildings. That's the type of problem we're facing. The South End exists because people were uprooted and moved to a dangerous place for them to be physically, mentally. Their health is at risk. What is the city doing for that? Instead of causing more harm to Black, brown, marginalized, poor folks, what is the city doing to actively end racism, exploitation, oppression, offer health care, services, education? Education. Because there is a duty and a responsibility. But I'm not seeing that. I feel like we're not seeing that because that would be transformative. That would mean starting over, creating the ground that we're built on. Saying, you know what? Policing's not where we should start. We start with mental health, right? We start, like if the problem is mental health, then start with the process there. Police should not be doing all the policing of our bodies.
And you reference the South End, and sometimes I feel like our officials don't necessarily recognize all the different aspects of Albany. But you know who's recognizing all the aspects of Albany right now? Kathy is, because from the South End to Uptown, there's about to be a Skyway Park where she took $1.9 million of the city's downtown revitalization fund and funneled that to this park that's gonna cost $20 million in total. But you're gonna take funds that were meant for our people and you're not gonna build any community centers. You're not going to talk about any mental health facilities. We're not talking about those things. Mind you, she has talked about one community center, but we're talking about parks and parks and parks and parks and parks every other day. But we don't need parks. We need community centers. We need programs for our babies. I don't understand. So clearly you know that Albany exists. You know the different areas of Albany, but you're not here to help anyone. You're here to create parks I can't do something outside in a park in the middle of winter, Kathy. I can't have an after-school program at a park in the middle of winter, Kathy. We need to hear people here to help mold our babies. And you're gonna say that your hands are tied in schooling. If your hands are tied in schooling, create community centers, create community areas that we can come to, that our kids have places to go, because we're out here dying and you don't care, and it's evident.
That's a relationship. Nobody said it was a healthy one. And it is not just Kathy, it's also the city council, right? City council has accountability. Kathy has accountability. Chief Hawkins has accountability. DA Soares, Lord, accountability. But let's keep talking about accountability, shall we? Because we touched on it a little bit, right? We talked about the fact that Eleazar Williams will never walk again. And there was no accountability for the officer that caused that harm. So what would it actually look like to have accountability? What would that look like in Albany specifically to have accountability? How do we make that happen?
Well, first thing is, I would say, is stop allowing the police to investigate the police. Let's give some power to the CPRB, right? That they can, one, they can initiate investigations, they can see a police officer's record, right? And they can recommend some sort of action that's binding to the police department. Stop allowing, this goes back to the culture I just talked about a second ago. Stop allowing the culture of policing to infest our communities and continue to cause harm and protect these officers. We see it right now throughout the state, the repeal of 50A. Y'all remember that, right? It allows us to see the misconduct records or the disciplinary records, supposed to be able to see it, right? And what's the pushback? Immediately, as officers' records are being foiled, what's happening? The PBA and other entities are deciding, no, we're gonna file injunctions with the court to block certain things in the officer's record. What are they trying to hide? Like, in all honesty, if we can see that there is some sort of pattern that has developed over time that may have some ramifications on some act that happened, why wouldn't we want to see that, right? We're not saying that because you did all this stuff here, you have to be guilty of this. No, we're saying that it might be helpful to know that, hey, you've been kicking people in the ass for the last 5 years, and now someone else got kicked, and here you go, right? It might be helpful to know that. That's all I'm saying. That's how it concerns the police.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's kind of the conversation we were having earlier. I think it was off camera. I don't even remember, bro. We just be talking. But some of the trainings, like you asked accountability, what does it look like? I'm kind of jaded, I won't lie to you, in the fact that I'm done begging for them to have a moral compass and to acknowledge us and treat us with respect and dignity. So now, what accountability looks like to me is independent oversight. So, like he said, CPRB, we need to be able to monitor things and have our own independent investigations. I don't have faith in relying on the other people anymore. So for us, what does that look like? It looks like oversight. It looks like us being included. It looks like us being a part of panels, boards, Zoom conversations that weren't announced and nobody really can be a part of those. Like, we should have a seat at all of those tables, and we shouldn't have to beg and plead. It should be public notice. We should all know how to get involved, how to be engaged. We should all have a tangible role. I think that's what I'd look for in terms of accountability. Let us into the process.
The process.
Exactly. And I think that in order, words. I think that we shouldn't have to go through the police to get to the review board. Like, we should be able to go straight to the review board. How am I going to tell you, you're hurting me, stop hurting me, and I need to complain, I need management, and can I talk to management? And I'm going to you, and you're like, nah, because I want to keep hurting you. So you can't go to management because I don't feel like your complaint is valid. Yeah. How is that a thing that we have to go through? Why can't I just go straight and be like, okay, this was what happened, I'm being hurt in this way, management, how can you help me? I think it's ridiculous, it's ludicrous that we have to go through the people that are hurting us to maybe get help, for them to decide if we deserve help.
Yeah, how do we expect accountability and transparency when we're complaining to our abusers about our abusers, and then waiting to see whether or not they'll show us the pattern of abuse. I'm thoroughly confused, and at the same time, why isn't Mayor Sheehan standing up saying it can't be this way anymore? Why isn't the city council calling for a special, I don't know, community conversation that's actually led by the community, founded in the community, discussed by the community, decided by the community, because the current task force was not created by the community? Did I miss something?
That's the whole thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I don't care, man. I'm not here for politics or nothing else, so I'm just talking, man. I think a big, obviously, we all know a huge barrier to change is power, the power dynamics. A lot of times people see change as threatening to their current power and what they're able to do. A lot of people identify with that. It means the world to them, and they'll do anything to hold on to their power. So I worked for the city for several years, and I saw some people who are incredible, their hearts are in it. They would die for anybody in the city, and I love those people. I've seen others that were more concerned with maintaining their power status, and for that reason didn't want to change things, didn't want to create change, didn't want new voices at the table. So I think the power and the need to cling to power at all means, it stops a lot of progress when we have programs that could be beneficial, could help people.
Well, they reformed it, so they're fine.
Right, yeah, we're done now.
I reformed it. It's fine. It's fine. I don't know, are there other pieces, right? We're in this moment, we've got this opportunity, we've been given this platform to be able to speak semi-directly to Mayor Sheehan and Chief Hawkins and City Council. Not exactly David Soares, but we know he's gonna watch it anyways.
So,
What are the other things that we need to say to them?
we're talking about the reform that's trying to happen. So the task force, and why is it broken up into so many different pieces? Because last time I checked, mental health and education go together. Last time I checked, mental health and policing go together. Last time I checked, these are all things that lean on each other, that are building blocks of each other. So why are we having so many separate conversations about things that coincide with one another? That's the big picture.
Anything we're missing, Paul? Anything that they need to understand that we haven't already said?
Yes. They should understand that power dynamics have shifted. I don't say that as a threat. Let me be very clear, because I know there's some right-wing Facebook page that'll, oh, look what he said. Stop. I don't say that as a threat. I say that to say the community and individuals who serve the community are organized, are impactful. We know what we're doing, and it behoove you to include us on these conversations and work with the community truly, as opposed to holding on to old things that don't work and don't help people. A lot of us out here want to save the city. We look forward to doing it together.
I guess I could piggyback on that a little bit. I feel like this moment that we're in 2020, right? Why are we here right now having this conversation? It's because of all the lives that have been lost, all the pain, all the sorrow that has built up to a point where this is necessary, where these conversations are absolutely necessary, where the elected officials have to come to the table, right? They have to be here. They have to hear what we're talking about. They have to hear the community. The community has been outraged and has come out in these streets throughout the entire capital region, right? Throughout the entire capital region, screaming, stomping. I've shed tears with folks. I've screamed. Yeah, I screamed with folks. I've had to hold some people in the community. They are outraged. They want change. And you're right, Paul. Like, Batman, this is a different time. This ain't like last year. This ain't 2019. This is a different time in history. The opportunity afforded to us by the blood of those in our community cannot be missed. It can't. We out here and we have to always honor that, right? People have lost their lives, and that's what I think, that's the part that people don't get. This ain't about changing stuff just for it'd be fair if we do this. It'd be good if we do this. Hey, let's lend a hand. Let's help out. This is about people's lives. Like, the changes that we're talking about making could determine whether or not someone is alive next year or dead. Right? So that's how serious this is. So I feel like if you can't get on board with that at this point, in this historic moment, you don't need to hold any seat calling yourself a representative of the city. You don't. You don't need to be there, because this is impactful. Let go of that stuff that no longer works, of those rules and policies and ways of being that have only caused harm in these communities, have given you some sort of power, but it's caused harm. It's time for a change, and I'm always here to make sure the community has a voice in that change. And I'm gonna keep being here, and I'm gonna keep being loud.
I think that it behooves Mayor Sheehan, Chief Hawkins, City Council, and DA Soares to listen to the words, to dig deep. Because we haven't just shed tears, we've shed tear gas. Haven't heard about that yet. Where's the mayor on that? Where's the chief on that? Where's the DA on that? Where's City Council on that? Didn't see them in the streets with us. Didn't see them standing with people who are screaming and calling for justice, except to tell us to be quiet, that we're not doing it the right way. We can't go about it this way. We shouldn't show up this way. The thing that I hope that this body understands and learns is to listen to its people, that we do have the answers. We know what's best for our communities. And also, to not lie. Don't try to turn words around or to take data and twist it and say, oh, well, this is the thing or that's a thing. Be truthful, be honest. Stand up and call white supremacy white supremacy. Stand up and say capitalism is ruining things every single day. Talk about how the power and the money impacts the lives of the most marginalized in negative ways. We're sitting out here having a conversation, hoping that other people who have the power to impact lives will do the right thing.
And that's completely ridiculous. You know, not for nothing, we're all here, we're part of nonprofits. We do what's right because it's right, and that's the only reason we need. When you were talking, you said, oh, we take it so the elected officials have to come out here. Why do we even have to force them? Why didn't they say, oh, you guys are doing a community conversation? How can I be a part of it? Let's just talk. Why are their phone numbers not posted? Why are they not out here with us? That's my question. But again, I don't want to sound like the crazy, angry guy. You know, I'm that man, but there is a way to move forward. You know, the way to move forward is to work with us. We're all going to be here 10 years from now, hopefully, knock on wood. We're all going to be here 5, 10 years from now. We have to live together. Let's make sure that it's equitable for everyone.
Yeah, equity, not equality. Not the
Equity,
same.
right.
Not the same.
Yeah, that relationship is a part of the problem, right? That kind of like this separation, like we're over here. That's what I wanted to kind of touch on. I don't know how much time we have left to talk about it, but just the value of our voice versus the value of the voices of those in elected officials aren't on par with one another, right? At least not in their eyes, right? They're like, why should I listen to this 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever people who are talking, who have talked to thousands of folks in the community? Why should I listen to them? They don't have any power. They don't have any title, right? Now, they're not maybe saying that directly out of their mouth or thinking it directly like that, but that's the sentiment that comes across, right? Because when I show up to have conversations, I'm not getting any responses from any of these elected officials about any of the changes that we want to make. They haven't responded to us in any real significant way, right? It's that type of, I think, thinking infects the entire community, man. It infects us all because it works both ways. If I am the representative of this community and I am showing you that I do not respect or value your voice, how is that felt from the community? Why would I engage, right? Why would I want to be involved? Why would I want to be involved in a system that I know does not value me or doesn't care about me, right? And then this cycle, this negative cycle loop just continues on and on and on. Like, I don't want to be involved, so I don't show up. And then things continue as they are.
But they've showed us how to get them to do the things they're supposed to do.
Lessons.
They've made it really clear.
Lessons.
They've said,
Facts.
oh, I won't have a
Facts.
conversation with you one-on-one, but when y'all show up together
Facts.
and y'all saying the same thing,
Yeah.
I got no choice.
Now, what does power look like? Who has the power in that situation?
They have showed us that the power is in the people,
The people.
and they leave us no choice.
Right.
They leave us no choice but to be united and to come together and be out in the streets and show up at your front door and do all these things because it's the only time they listen.
Yep.
So if you want us not to be in the streets, you want us not hollering and yelling at you, you don't want hundreds, thousands of people showing up at all the parks that already exist in the city, do the right thing and do it now. Don't wait.
I think that they definitely have surrounded themselves, looking at the initial version of the task force versus the version we have now. They have surrounded themselves with a bunch of yes men that talk about the things that we talk about in the way that they want to hear it, not the way that needs to be perceived. They have initially had a bunch of yes men, and those yes men are still on the task force. They just at the bottom added a few people that might say something a little different that they could shut down because they're outnumbered. And I think that's something that we have to talk about. I am not here to tell you yes. I'm here to tell you what is going on in our communities because I'm out here speaking to people every day. Okay, the people that were initially on that task force, some of the businesses, the non-for-profits, those things, I haven't met any of those people. I'm out in the community and there are people running non-for-profits that I don't know who you are. I've never seen you. And I'm out here in my community every day, not just on my block, but every part of Albany. I can guarantee that people know who I am and that I am here for them. So how are the people on that task force that I don't know out in the community helping when I haven't seen it, when I have been everywhere? And there's no track of it. You don't have a posting, you don't have a picture, you don't have a this, you don't have a that, but you're in your building over there doing come to me if you have a problem. Your buildings aren't accessible to everyone. This area, Albany, all of Albany is not accessible to everyone, and that's part of the problem. But why are we not going to those neighborhoods to talk about the issues? Okay, I'm not here to tell you yes. I'm not here to tell you that you're doing a great job, keep going. I'm not your token. Nobody here is gonna be your token. So I'm sorry, if you're on that task force and you wanna be a token, you've got the wrong thing. You've got no motive to help the people. You're just here for your photo op. You're just here for your paycheck. You're just here for your funding from their pocket to make them feel better like they're doing something for our community. That makes no sense. Do not be performative. Black Lives Matter written on Mark Street, that was performative, okay? Why do we need a tourist attraction, and that's what we're gonna call it, because it was. You shut down Mark Street for 2 weeks. 2 weeks for some street paint. Okay, and you're gonna tell me it's not a tourist attraction? So people couldn't come take pictures? To bring money to the white neighborhood that Lark Street is because you run off our black businesses. You run them off. We have one on Lark Street. But you mean you couldn't have put that in the South End? You couldn't have put Black Lives Matter in the South End and cut it off for 2 weeks and brought that money into our community where we need it? That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Reform, transformation.
And I mean,
Reform,
I think I'm gonna be the angry one.
transformation.
They gonna label me the angry one. You good. You good.
Nah, you make the angle look
Right.
good in that suit. That's a fact. Just a couple points I wanted to bring up. So we have Kathy talking about this new project that's coming to the community, the parks, the building of the parks. There's already parks, yes. But I just, in thinking about any major construction happening in the community, because when you think about it, so say we need that. Are you ensuring that folks from these communities that are impoverished have opportunity to get training so they can get jobs, to be on those work sites, so that one, they get training that lasts them beyond just that job, they get money in their pocket almost immediately, and they have another connection to the community. I have built something in my community. Are you thinking like that? Is that the type of thinking that's going on? And that's the question for the mayor, the president of the common council. That's a question for you all. Are you thinking about that in any real sense?
She's actually kind of answered that. She put it in some of the articles. She's talked about it. One of the parks, there is going to be one seasonal worker for this huge, massive park that's going to be built. one seasonal worker. They're gonna get their fund. It was their budget's $14,000 for that one seasonal worker, and she wants the communities around that park to form a non-for-profit to clean up the park and to take care of the park that you're creating, but not creating any jobs. So you're gonna put other work on people that don't want that. No one asked for that. Did anyone come to you and be like, I really want this park. I need this park. This park is gonna make my life so much better. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't think so, because you're adding work to other people's plates. Okay, like you add work to my plate because I'm here doing this.
I'll be honest, I'm not even, like the park I did and all the problems that come along with it, it's less about the park for me and more about not being focused on economic opportunity and the well-being of the community. Like, I get, hey, parks are nice, right? But what about the economic opportunity? What about ensuring that there's something going on here? Because, listen, I think Michelle Alexander and others talk about it. It's not we talk about violence in our communities. That's something we haven't even really touched on yet. I don't know if we have time, but we haven't touched on it. It's not about the number of police is not affecting the crime or violence in our communities, right? It's not in any real way. We've had more and more police decade after decade after decade to the point where we now have military forces within our cities, right? Literally, they have tanks, they have all kinds of large weapons, etc. It ain't the number of police that's changing anything, y'all, right? It'd be the number of what? Opportunities, right? Funding our education system, number of programs that are addressing a lot of the traumas that have happened in these communities that will actually change these interactions. Until we start seeing more of that, and that goes into this idea like what changing our priorities. We need more preventative measures. We need more real opportunity, right, to change what we see in our communities, not more police, not being more punitive. It hasn't worked yet. It hasn't worked yet.
So defund the police?
Defund the police, invest in communities.
Invest in communities,
Absolutely.
defund the police, and invest in communities.
I think
I was gonna say, when I worked for the city of Albany, it was kind of weird. You know, we'd have lots of money for parks and stuff like that, but we didn't have Wi-Fi or like a color printer in our office for like years. And I was like, bro, I work for a nonprofit outside of this. Like, I don't know, I was still at a nonprofit. Like, I thought this was, government or something else. But it's like, how did we go for 3 years without a color printer, but there's money for all these other things? Mm-hmm. And like you said, just reappropriate the funds. Well, let's get rid of one tank. And how much could we fund? How many computers could we buy? How many training programs could we create? So I think there are opportunities, but it's the culture that isn't really progressive or interested in moving in that direction.
Maybe it's horses.
Right, you need horses. You gotta have the horses.
I mean, if we are really like being serious about addressing the problems in our communities, I'm talking about as an elected official or an appointed official, which the chief is. If we're really serious about doing it, we would have to take a real look at what our problems are rooted in. Like what we've been doing as a society for so long. I mean, we can get into white supremacy and racism, like all of that's focused, but what we've been doing, I think, is addressing the symptoms, the outgrowths, the problems that have stemmed from being in an impoverished community, the problems that have stemmed from having so many obstacles in the way of any avenue to success, that these are the lanes that you end up taking, right? We've been dealing with, okay, well, instead of remove the obstacles, widen the lanes, make sure that those in the community know that this body, and I'm talking about City Hall, and I'm talking about state government too, because Cuomo ain't off the hook for this. I know he ain't on the panel, he should be. This is the Capitol, right? Making sure that the community knows you care and that you are actually truly there for them. We've been playing this game of performing for a long time, right? Where I hold this seat and I'm called a representative of the community, but I'm not really a representative of the community because my heart isn't really representing the entire community, right? My heart is in holding on to this power and doing these certain things. Look at what the governor of Rockefeller did here. Uprooted an entire community that was not white, was ethnically diverse, black, right? People from all over the place, uprooted it to build this thing here on a whim, on his choice.
I appreciate that we've had the opportunity to have this conversation, that as Black people, we've had the opportunity to have this conversation, to have a platform, to have our voices heard. I hope that the people in power listen to what we've said, respond in a way that gives hope to the rest of the community of Albany, that makes them realize, oh wait, we don't have to show up as hundreds of people for them to do, as thousands of people to make them do, as millions of people to make them do the things that they should do because it's right. I love being in community with y'all. Like this is what we do, right? And so that's what we're gonna keep doing. And I hope that the mayor and the chief and city council and DA Soares are listening to it.
Humanity, we are here.